I'm Fox 26 meteorologist John Dawson. This is your tropical update, and I know you guys like to check in to know what's happening out in the tropics, and we're closely following an area of low pressure that was in the northern Gulf, wanted to bring a lot of rain to Florida. And the good news is that the National Hurricane Center has decided, you know what? We don't think that's going to turn into anything after all. And actually, they were only giving it a 10% chance of developing into something. So they kind of knew that it was not very likely that it was going to happen. And they've officially now been able to put out the statement that I like to hear so much from the National Hurricane Center. No tropical activity is expected for the next 7 days. So that's all the good news to report kind of right off the top, your summary of what's happening in the Atlantic Basin. But let's dive into things a little bit more as far as what we were talking about. On the radar imagery, you can get a little bit of a swirl here. You can see where that upper level low was. And as I talked about it, it continued to just bring showers and storms all across the Florida peninsula. Lots and lots of rain. And then that rain gets wrapped back around into Georgia and then the Carolinas. Plenty of rainfall happening, and that scenario is still going to be happening, even though it doesn't look like this is going to end up being a tropical system. There's still going to be quite a bit of rain that's associated with that. I switched to our water vapor imagery. Remember, the water vapor imagery gives us an idea of what's happening in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So instead of down here at the surface where we are, go some miles up into the air, and then you can see a little bit of what's happening. The orange there represents some very dry air. The green here representing some very moist air. So naturally, where you're seeing those rain on the radar is the same place that you're seeing that very moist air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. But what it also helps us to see is that rotation that I was talking about. You can see that spin there that's happening with that upper level low. And now it looks like that this low pressure system, instead of trying to come over here into the far western edges of the Atlantic and along the eastern coastline, it looks like that it wants to sort of meander a little bit more over land. So it looks like this is going to be what would be a non-tropical low. It's going to stay. It might come down to the surface a little bit more, but it's over land, not over water. So the idea of it becoming tropical is sort of what has been taken out of the picture. And the National Hurricane Center, they're only interested in tropical weather. They don't really care if something's happening over land, so unless it looks like it's going to go over water and become tropical. So there are other government agencies within NOAA who will be taking over the tracking of this system and what it can and can't do. But the National Hurricane Center has said, you know what, for now we're done with it. We don't see anywhere in the Atlantic Basin that we expect to see it. But there are going to be some impacts. It's going to be quite breezy, quite windy. So we'll see some of those stronger winds because of that stormy weather that's going to still be impacting this part of our country. And perhaps you've got some plans, you're traveling. We're getting some international forecasting in here for you a little bit more on our tropical updates now. So the Bahamas are certainly going to be impacted by that system that's sort of, we'll say, in the neighborhood. It's obviously not really near them, but it's sort of in their general idea. That's going to keep conditions windy, and we'll look for those temperatures to remain in the lower 80s. We will look for some more overcast skies once we get into Friday as far as what we're looking for a forecast in the Bahamas. Now, let's talk about those water temperatures. Are still very warm. If we were to see anything try to develop, it would definitely have the fuel, the strength to sort of flare up and become quite strong quite quickly. And so those 80s is really all you need for a lot of that to happen. Down into the Caribbean, same sort of scenario, looking to have just a little less stable conditions happening down in the Caribbean for the next week or so. Doesn't look like it would want to form anything tropical, but with those stormier conditions or just less sort of stable conditions overall, that is going to lead to some higher wave heights. So nice and calm over most of the Gulf, but when you get down into the Caribbean here, looking at future wave heights for the next day or so, we will expect things to become a little bit more higher waves here into the Caribbean. We've got 9 or 10 foot waves when we're into Friday, and then things begin to calm a little bit more until we get into the end of the weekend, and we're going to pick those back up to 7 to 10 foot waves. Aruba, quick on their forecast as well, looking fairly windy, those temperatures locked in. So pretty stable conditions expected in the Aruba area, where we're looking for, again, lots of sunshine, lots of wind, temperatures holding right about 80 degrees overall for that area where we're going to be looking at. Cancun, maybe you're headed on a cruise down to Cancun. You're going to need to be ready for some warmer temperatures after today, some extra cloud cover and a little rain in Cancun. That ends and gets a little drier forecast once we get into Thursday and Friday, so we should be pretty set for some pleasant weather for those folks. Looking at the Futurecast, we saw this rain that we've been talking about here on the Fox exclusive model. I talked about sort of those stormier conditions that'll be across the Caribbean. Most of that happening when we get closer into Central America. But overall, I think the primary thing that we'll be discussing in the tropics, and if you're in the Houston area as well, this is going to be applying to us and a lot of the Gulf Coast, is this Saharan dust. We're looking at this as a Futurecast product, and that is really thick right now over the Caribbean, and it's really locking in and continuing to head towards the Gulf. And by the time we get to Friday, this dust becomes thicker across the Houston area, over to our friends in Louisiana, and then even over into the panhandle of Florida. I think this dust will be leaving its impact. And the main thing that we're going to see with these dusty conditions like this is just quite a bit of a haze that's out there. So when you're looking across the skies, it'll look a little polluted. It's dust that's in the air. It's dust that has traveled all the way from Africa and is now into our neighborhood. And it will give us some beautiful sunsets and sunrises, but it'll also impact our allergies a little bit as well, because that's something that we've been kind of dealing with a little bit. So overall, that dust is going to be something that we're certainly dealing with over the weekend. Just a quick reminder here as I kind of wrap things up on our tropical update for the day. We are expecting an above average season. So normally 14, 7, and 3 are the numbers that we see. We're forecasting the Colorado State University 17, 9, and 4. NOAA also pretty much on those same numbers. All right, that gives us your tropical update for today. Just a reminder, as you're getting your hurricane preparedness ready, go to my YouTube channel. So go to YouTube and you could search for Meteorologist John Dawson, or if you're on YouTube, you could search for Hurricane Gear Test. That gives you a great opportunity to see some ideas and things that you might want to do to better prepare yourself for hurricane season.